What's up? It's Marco, Sage of Soccer, and today we got a bit of bad news to talk about. We know that Tyler Adams was out injured. He missed the international break after picking up an injury just before that, and he's had to undergo surgery on his hamstring to help repair an issue. Now, this isn't a terrible injury, but the timing of it is pretty bad, both for the United States and Leeds. It's unclear about the current severity of his injury, but there's a decent chance he'll end up missing the Nations League finals, as well as missing a good chunk of Premier League games, if not the rest of the season. This is a pretty bad injury for Tyler Adams, and I think it'll have some pretty clear negative impacts on both the US and Leeds. The implications for the US men's national team are pretty clear to see. Tyler Adams was our top defensive midfielder, probably our top player at the World Cup, and he's in a pretty crucial position. We don't have a backup at the sixth spot, and because of that, we will likely have to change our formation to a 4-2-3-1 to accommodate the loss of Adams. Now, this isn't the end of the world, as I think that's a formation that I prefer us to play in. Gio Reyna at the 10 was just very good, one of the few bright spots in our game against El Salvador. But without Adams, that formation can be a little bit weaker. If we have Weston McKennie and Yunus Musah play together, that's not ideal. I don't think they were the best together. And if we put in Luke De La Torre, that adds a bit of creativity and technical ability, but he doesn't have the defensive ability to really thrive in that formation. So without Adams, we're going to have to really plan for the games in the Nations League final. Our first game is against Mexico, and we'll likely have a final against Canada should we advance. And against Mexico, it's kind of tough to gauge at the moment. They have a new manager. They're kind of integrating a new squad into the team. But we know how good Alvarez is as that defensive midfielder for Mexico. And I think it would be very valuable to have Tyler Adams in that team. And it is going to hurt to miss him. But I think it really affects our play against Canada should both of us qualify for the finals. As the Canada team is very good counterattacking, they'll likely be sitting back defensively, allowing us to have the ball. And without Adams, dealing with counterattacks is going to be a lot more difficult, especially at Leeds this season. He's been doing a great job breaking up attacks. And without him, it's going to be very tough, especially without a real guy in that sixth position. I don't think it would be worth starting Acosta. The damage he would do to our offense, just have a little bit better defense. I don't think it would be worth it to play him. Maybe Johnny Cardoso could step into that spot, but I'm not too confident in him yet. I think we'll really need to see Weston McKennie stepping up in a defensive role where he will have to cover a lot of ground, break up a lot of attacks, and it's something that's going to be very tough for him to do. But good news is he'll have a little bit of practice covering for a team without Tyler Adams. We're now seeing the downside of having three of our best players at one Premier League club. Leeds are already in a relegation battle, and with Tyler Adams being injured, that battle just got a whole lot tougher. And should Leeds get relegated, that would have a ton of implications on the US men's national team. Tyler Adams has been crucial for Leeds at the defensive midfield role. He's been a huge part of breaking up attacks and turning that into offense as well. And without him, it's going to be very difficult for a Leeds team that's already been struggling a lot defensively. In his absence, it's likely going to be Weston McKennie and Marc Roca coming into the team, but the depth behind those two is really not that good, especially considering they have three games coming up in a very short period of time. And the depth behind him is a couple of youngsters who, while promising, don't really have the experience you'd like for a relegation battle. While I do like Marc Roca and I think Weston McKennie, I think that's a good pairing, especially in like a relegation battle setting. I think that's a good enough team for a bottom of the Premier League side. It's going to be a lot tougher without Tyler Adams, and without his defensive ability, it could spell a bit of trouble for Leeds. To make things worse, those aren't the only injury problems Leeds are dealing with. Ganato has recently picked up an ankle injury, and it's unclear how long he'll be out. He could just be the Arsenal game. It could be up to a month. Ankle injuries are really tough to gauge, but having honestly their best attacking player out for a small period of time, that's going to hurt them in a relegation race that is this tight. In addition, Max Wuber has also picked up an injury, though he should only be out for the Arsenal game, and if there's a game to miss, it's the game against the champions. That's already going to be a tough game to win. But with how many injuries Leeds are stacking up, with them already not being in a good situation, we have to wonder what happens if they get relegated. Tyler Adams is in the best spot, in my opinion. He's constantly been linked with moves to a bigger club, and honestly, if Leeds get relegated, it would probably help him out to some extent his price tag would likely drop, and that could make a move to a different club a lot easier. So I think that Manchester United has been interested in him in the past. While they have Casemiro now, so I'm not sure if that interest will still hold. We know that that's a club who's interested in him. He had a good amount of success in the Bundesliga. He could go back there. And I think Tyler Adams will have a good amount of options, so I'm not too concerned about him. Brendan Aronson, I think that he would likely stay with Leeds in the Championship. He does fit Leeds' system very well, and I think honestly staying in the championship another year could help him thrive to some extent. He'll be a focal point of the team, get on the ball a lot, get to be a creative player, and I think it could end up helping. Now, there's a chance he could just end up getting stuck in the Premier League with Leeds potentially, and that could do some damage to his career. But the championship is still a pretty high level, and I'm not too concerned about that. I don't think he'd get a move to a different club because his goal contributions really haven't been enough, and he's more in the Leeds team because he fits their style of play, because he's a good player for them, just with the energy that he brings. And I'm not too sure if another club would be able to sign him. Maybe if Jesse Marsh ends up picking up a Premier League job, we'll see. But I think that he ends up staying with Leeds in the championship. Weston McKennie's the toughest guy to predict. He's only at Leeds on loan from Juventus, and if they get relegated, I can't see Weston McKennie staying with Leeds. So that means he goes back to Juventus, and if he ends up staying with Juventus, that's pretty bad. If he's in the same situation where he was before, he'd be a rotational player, except now he kind of knows that he's not wanted by the club, and I don't see him getting too much consistent playing time. I really don't see him breaking in as a starter again. And you'd expect Juventus to sell him, especially with how much they need the money at the moment. And again, that's kind of just the lottery. We'll see if he ends up going somewhere where he can start, if he can play in the midfield, or if he'll end up being kind of a utility person like he was for Juventus. And it's certainly not ideal for Weston McKennie. It's kind of crazy to see how one injury can have such a big impact on our team, both at the country and club level. Tyler Adams is a crucial player for the United States. He's our only good player in that defensive midfield role, and he's also a crucial player for Leeds United, who have three of our players. And if he misses too many games for Leeds, we could end up seeing three of our players get relegated. And if he's missing time for the United States, that might cost us a trophy, and it's kind of scary to see. So hopefully Tyler Adams will be able to get back to health soon, and hopefully well players step up in his absence. This could be a huge chance for Weston McKennie to be just become a bit of a legend at Leeds if he's able to step up completely without him and turn those bad results into good results and help them stay up. And at the U.S. level as well, if he can have a good result without Tyler Adams, that really solidifies him as a starter in a situation where, with Gio playing as a 10, Musa and Adams looking good in the midfield, Weston McKennie might not be a starter. So if he's able to really step up in these next few months, that could be great for him. But if he doesn't, he ends up getting relegated, and even going back to Juventus, he's probably in a pretty bad situation. So this is going to be a really crucial next few months for Weston McKennie and Brendan Aronson. I think Tyler Adams will land on his feet no matter what, but it's going to be really tough. And yeah, hopefully Adams gets back soon and the lead stays up. The U.S. is able to win the Nations League. And yeah, that's all I got to talk about. See you.